You know, the main difference between us so-called normal people and the guy that's walking down the street talking to himself that everybody says is crazy is that he's doing out loud. We're doing it in our heads. So many of us spend so much of our time talking to ourselves in our heads, constantly identified with the thinking mind, the thought narrative in our heads, and we miss the present moment. We miss the life that we actually have in front of us. And most of these thoughts, if you really observe them, are often negative, repetitive, and ultimately dysfunctional, and cause so much of our psychological suffering. Now, that's not to say that the thinking mind is terrible or that thoughts are a bad thing. No, quite the opposite. The thinking mind is a super powerful tool that's arguably helped us to birth civilization into existence. But the problem comes in when it possesses us. It's no longer that we're using the thinking mind so much as the thinking mind is using us. And so how do we break the constant identification with the thinking mind and live more frequently in the present moment, in our actual life, instead of projections into the past or the future? And just a very quick announcement before we get straight into it. A few more slots have opened up for the free one-to-one with me to see if you'd be a good fit for the one-to-one coaching program with me, the Consciousness Revolution program. Go to speaktoalex.com, fill in your details there, and let's book a time for us to speak, or wait till the end of the video for more details. Now, before we go ahead, I wanted to say that the present moment as a term, is a bit of a misnomer, really, because it's always the present moment. It's always now. When the future comes, it comes as the now. The past, when you think about it in the now. When you think about the future, you think about it in the now, in the present moment. But the term the present moment really refers to stepping outside of thought and into the life that you actually have in front of you, because thought is always about past or future. And to be in the present moment is to pay attention to the life you have, to the presence within you, to the awareness that you essentially are. And from there, your true creativity and intuition and confidence and clarity will arise. So here's 10 ways to enter the present moment instantly. Number 1 is consciously observing your thoughts without immediately identifying with them. And this can be a good place to start for a lot of people. Because for a lot of people, their minds are so busy that it's challenging for them to just instantly, completely disidentify from the thoughts and just live in presence for sustained periods. But to consciously observe your thoughts without immediately identifying with them is the first step. Stepping back from your thoughts and realizing that you are the observer of your thoughts. And that begins the disidentification process. That begins the arising of some presence and awareness within you. Noticing that you have thoughts, that you're not the thoughts, that you experience thoughts. And then you don't have to follow every thought to its logical conclusion. You can step back and realize that you're experiencing a thought, that a thought arises within you without instantly identifying with them. So consciously observing your thoughts brings you into the present moment, because it brings you in to yourself prior to your thoughts about yourself. The second way to enter the present moment instantly is to move your attention from thought to sense perceptions, from thought about past or future, about your life situation, to the life that you have in front of you, from thought to what you can see, hear, taste, smell, and touch. Years ago, when I first heard about presence and living in the present moment, I used to think, I must get out of my mind. I must stop thinking. And now I'm thinking about stopping thinking. And now I'm trying to get out of my mind by using my mind. And, what am I going to do? Because you can see that's a misnomer. You can see that trying to use your mind to get out of your mind is never going to work. Trying to stop thinking by thinking about it is never going to work. And it would have been so much easier if I knew this information, that it's not a thought, it's a movement of attention or awareness. It's a movement of attention from thought to sense perceptions. Now, if you're new to presence or mindfulness or meditation or awareness or whatever you want to call it, it can feel challenging in the sense that maybe you move your attention into sense perceptions and then you keep on getting dragged back into the thinking mind because the thinking mind is so busy and it has so much momentum to it and it demands so much importance and seems like it has this kind of magnetic pull to it. But just repeating that action, just gently bringing your attention back into the now, increases your ability to stay there. Maybe you're just doing the washing up, and instead of thinking the whole time, you bring some of your attention into the actual action of washing up, watching the bubbles go everywhere and the water swish around and the feel of the dishes and the look of the shine as you clean them. Or perhaps you're walking around in nature and instead of thinking the whole time, you bring your attention to your visual senses and your auditory sense, listening, feeling your feet on the ground, feeling the wind on your face, seeing the colors and the patterns, not constantly labeling everything, but just seeing things and hearing things for what they are prior to your thoughts about them. The third way to enter the present moment instantly is to pay conscious attention to your breath. Pay conscious attention to your breath. Yes, this is technically the same as moving attention from thought to sense perceptions, but the breath can act as a very powerful anchor to the now, a very powerful anchor to the present moment. And it's useful when paying attention to your breath to slow your breath right down. So many of us are over breathing, breathing too fast, breathing from the diaphragm and not from the belly. And having the breath audible and irregular. And this is stress-ridden breathing. To turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, to truly relax into the present moment, it's helpful to slow the breath right down. Instead of diaphragm breathing, breathing from the belly. Instead of having the breath audible, slowing it down so it's soft and you can barely hear it. Breathing in and out through the nose. Breathing soft and lightly. And this will help deepen your presence and slow down the mind. The fourth way to enter the present moment instantly is to consciously pay attention to the sensations within the body. Consciously paying attention to your feelings. This is about sense perceptions as well. An emotion is the combination between the sensations in the body and the thoughts in the mind. If I feel stressed, there's a contraction in the body, perhaps some heat sensation, and the thought in the mind. The internet's down, the coffee machine's not working, whatever that stressful thought is. And so consciously paying attention to these sensations in the body, to these feelings, and actively dissolving them with the light of your awareness has you promoting presence within you. The fifth way to enter the present moment instantly is acceptance of what is. Inner acceptance of what is. Allowing things to be as they are. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to always externally accept everything. It doesn't mean that you don't try and change anything in your life or improve your life situation or your health or your wealth and your financial situation. No. It means that acceptance of what is primary. It means that you internally accept your life situation and then act from there. Then you're acting from the presence, from the peace within you. And the action that you take is clearer, more focused, more efficient, and ends up creating a better situation anyway. So acceptance of what is slows down or stops the mind, because often we're complaining about what is in our minds. And so accepting what is ends that story and brings us back into the present moment. The sixth way to enter the present moment instantly is by letting go. This is obviously similar to acceptance, but here's another way to say it. Letting go. Letting go of the story in your mind. Yes, it seems important. Yes, it seems like you must pay attention to it. It demands that importance. It has that magnetic pull to it. And of course, sometimes you do have to think about things, to plan things, to reflect and contemplate in productive ways. But when most of your thinking is repetitive or negative, letting go of that story ends that story. And so when the story ends and the thoughts ends, all you're left with is what's here now. The seventh way to enter the present moment instantly is by surrender. Again, this is similar to the last two. However, this is applicable when you're really fighting in your mind. Perhaps when you're in a very, very challenging situation, which promoting lots of stress, lots of busy mind activity. Because we're conditioned to think that when we're in those stressful situations, when we're in those challenging situations, we really need to rack our brains to think our way out of them. And sometimes that can be useful, but only to a certain extent. Your true intuition and creativity and access to that deeper intelligence within you comes prior to racking your brains about the problem. And often when you surrender to the situation, not giving up in a kind of passive way, but surrendering to the challenge, accepting the challenge, allowing that challenge to be. And then that brings your awareness back into the presence, where perhaps intuitions about how to solve that challenge will naturally arise. So under these challenging situations, traumatic situations which really promote a busy, stressful, anxious, worrisome mind, to enter the present moment instantly comes through surrender. The eighth way to enter the present moment instantly is through forgiveness, via forgiveness. Because so many of us are caught in stories in our minds about what this person said or did to us, what we feel was done to us, how hard done by we feel like we are. And attachment to that story continues that story in the mind and takes us out of the present moment. And so forgiveness, as challenging as it can seem, especially if you've been through situations where heinous things have happened, it ends that story and brings you into the present moment. And perhaps it brings you into that feeling. The tension, the tightness, the sadness, the grief that's behind that story, that's locked up in the emotional body. And bringing attention to that begins the disidentification from the story and the dissolution of the emotional energy in the body, which deepens your presence, which allows you to live more deeply in the present moment through that forgiveness. The 9th way to enter the present moment instantly is through faith, is by having faith. Now, I don't mean some kind of religious or dogmatic faith. I mean having the faith that perhaps things might actually work out. This is especially useful for anyone running a business or heavily involved in some kind of project or activism. And in the past, I've been the worst person for this, worrying about what could happen, thinking about all of the potential negative outcomes, no matter how unlikely they might be. And so that continues this story in the mind about what could be some kind of undesirable future, and takes us out of the present moment and out of the true intuition and creativity that's going to allow us to manifest what we want anyway. So having more faith begins the disidentification process again, because it allows us to slow that story down, end that story through faith that maybe it will work out, and that it's a much more productive thing to be in the presence anyway, so we can solve our challenges with more clarity and level-headedness and groundedness. The 10th way to enter the present moment instantly is to ask powerful questions that promote presence and awareness. Questions like, who is aware of these thoughts? Who is the knower of these thoughts? Who is the knower of this experience? Are you aware? Who are you between two thoughts? And these questions can help bring you into awareness of the awareness that you essentially are. Awareness of the spaciousness that surrounds the thoughts that you essentially are, and have you living more deeply in the present moment. So before you go, a few more details on the Consciousness Revolution program, which is a one-to-one coaching program with me, where we use presence, mindfulness, pointers back to awareness to access that inner peace and creativity and intuition that's inherent within you. If you're suffering from that kind of anxiety and overthinking and fear and lack of clarity that comes from a super busy mind, where you're unable to live consistently in the present moment, this program's for you. So head over to speaktoalex.com and you can fill in some details there and tell us a bit about what you'd like to overcome on this program, what you'd like to work towards. Don't just put in a few words, fill in some details so that we can book a time for us to speak about solving your problems, and then we'll take it from there. So with that being said, drop a comment below, tell us a bit about yourself, your life situation, your personal or spiritual growth journey, so we can learn from each other and grow. And of course, like this video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss out on any new videos helping you with conscious personal growth.